Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm your film critic on staff, Tim Brayton. Across from me is Robert Jaroszynski, our film school dropout. Conspicuously missing is one Miss Carrie Jaroszynski, and I gotta say, it's very cool to me that we have two white guys talking about movies on a podcast, because I do think that's a niche the internet needs to have filled. But where's Carrie?
Yeah, she's upstairs sleeping one off, Tim. I wish I had a better excuse. She was out saving lives or something. But we were invited by a couple audience members and friends, the Mullins, to their annual Kentucky Derby party, and Carrie had one too many mint juleps.
It is a fine drink, but if you're not prepared for the Kentucky drinking,
yeah,
it can hammer you over the head pretty hard.
There was also some scenes of her wearing a horse mask and swinging at a horse pinata.
You don't need to tell me about your bedroom life.
No. Oh yeah. So yeah, that wasn't tonight. She had some fun and shared some really interesting stories while inebriated, but unfortunately cannot make it now down to the podcast. So we have to man the helm, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. It feels like we've got both of our arms tied behind our backs, and we're gonna have to struggle on, but struggle on we shall.
Yeah, we will, and we'll be covering. We can't miss. We made a commitment to talk about La La Land tonight and Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Am I getting that right?
Pretty close. Umbrellas of Cherbourg. A little more.
Okay, more. But first, I know all of us actually saw. We did top 5 anticipated summer movies last episode, and all of us couldn't wait to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Tim, what did you think about it?
Well, it's kind of ironic because it was your number one pick for the summer was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And when you picked it, I was like, oh no, it's going to be like just stupid, whatever. And I was, not like down on it, but really pretty down on it. I liked it. I liked it a lot, in fact.
That's somewhat surprising. I was coming here heart in hand, like thinking that I was going to tell you were right. I didn't. I thought it was just mediocre. So yeah, let's dig into 2017's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's Volume 2.
Volume 2.
All right.
Directed by James Gunn.
All right. Yeah.
Written by James Gunn.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know he did a lot of the writing for it as well too. Stars the same cast and crew, motley crew of folks. We've got Chris Pratt at the helm, Zoe Saldana. We have Dave Bautista. And then we have Vin Diesel as Groot. Who am I missing? Bradley Cooper. And Kurt Russell. Yeah. Seen him in a lot lately.
Part of the movie's overall schema of like shameless 80s flashbacks. We have the very same star of such films as Big Trouble in Little China, which clearly is a movie that Chris Pratt's character would have loved based on the way he talks about pop culture. Now, I will say, in defense of your not liking the film, it does some kind of terrible things. I think the plot is super labored. I think the comedy does not work, which shocks me because the comedy was the best thing about the first one. The jokes are so dumb and unfunny.
Yeah.
What I liked about it, I think the actors are all pretty much in fine form. I think Zoe Saldana is not sure why she's there. But other than that, whole cast, the aforementioned names, also Karen Gillan, who plays the villain turned villain, but maybe nicer villain, Nebula. A couple other characters in there. I thought the cast was really good. So it's just fun to be around these people again. I thought it was such a marvelous, such a wonderful audio visual overload. Like, it's got so much color. And like every 10 minutes, James Gunn just stops the movie cold to be like, we're going to do a music video set to whatever, The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. It's like, yeah, I'm on board with seeing bright CGI. It's practically animated. Like, the CGI is really honestly not very good. It's more like watching a big, bold, primary color cartoon set in this weird Jack Kirby universe of like crazy space shit with like late 70s rock, and I'm on board for that.
I just didn't. In all of the things you said are true. I just didn't care about the plot as much. I thought it was an interesting kind of twist. I'm familiar with the main point of what Kurt Russell's character is there for, and kind of just knowing the comic books a little bit. But I just didn't care. I liked the first one so much better, of the assembly of these.
Sure.
And then once it's like this is why things end with ever after, forever
right.
after. It's because I don't like. It's kind of gets boring a little bit afterwards. It's like, what are you going to do with these people?
I'm not going to disagree with that. I think the film is guilty of one of my least favorite sequel sins ever, which is that it resets pretty much all of the characters except for Dave Bautista's character, Drax the Destroyer. Everyone else is kind of like maybe where they were in the midpoint of the first film, which I hate. Like, if you're going to have sequels build on the character arc, I don't think the conflict's very interesting. I mean, no real spoiler alert to say that the movie is addicted to daddy issues, because every movie is addicted to daddy issues. And as with every single damn Marvel movie, the final battle sequence is just like throwing CGI at other CGI, and I find it tiring. But I
didn't mind looking at it, so I don't regret paying theater money to go see it or hear it, for that matter. Chris Pratt and the Zoe Saldana kind of, again, the doesn't she like me kind of thing, and that was played out a little bit. And the things that got the biggest laughs for me, I'm curious what got the laughs for you, and maybe they were a little bit childish, but I laughed the most at Dave Bautista. I thought he was the funniest part of the...
He's so clearly having the most fun of anyone on set, allowing that Bradley Cooper was not on set and didn't get to interact with any of the other people. But yeah, no, Bautista nails his lines. Like, there's some just blunt, mean jokes, but the joke is more on him being an idiot than on the target of his meanness. And so I did find that funny. I mean, I watched the whole thing with just sort of like a very awestruck grin on my face, just because of how big and splashy it was, and I think a lot of the jokes didn't work, but I still thought it was really fun.
What did you think of the CGI with Kurt Russell? It's not a spoiler,
it's like literally the first scene of the movie. It's weird. The whole thing feels like a step back, because we have Ant-Man, and they made Michael Douglas look crazy much like young Michael Douglas, and then in Iron Man 3, young Robert Downey Jr. I mean, it looked pretty solid. Kurt Russell looked like a plaster mannequin, and it wasn't even his like face; it was his hair.
Yeah, the hair.
His hair looked like he was wearing a CGI wig.
It was too coiffed, or I don't know what. Too much soul glow in it, or whatever he was putting in there in the '80s. The cheekbones were a bit much, but yeah, it was still fun to see Kurt Russell in some sort of version of himself from the '80s. Well, remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our site, alternating.com. That's alternating.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. Direct from our website, you can head to our Patreon page, which provides you with access to a ton of perks. You may want to make us watch a movie, have Tim write a review, pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page. Also, want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternating.com, click on the Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Tim, since our last episode, had a couple of things purchased.
Excellent.
We had some people playing video games. That Nintendo Switch is
nice.
Coming online.
I'm very excited to say that by the time this episode airs, I think I will finally have turned on my Nintendo Switch that I've now owned for 2 months.
You have some time back to you now to be able to do that.
I have a whole afternoon.
Perhaps you will be playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe like one of our audience members.
Very nice choice.
Or using a $100 Amazon gift card in the classic black card design to purchase a couple more video games from Nintendo Switch. If not, you might be settling down with The Red Turtle. I know that was one of your favorites on Blu-ray.
That is, in fact, a Bluray that I bought using our Amazon link.
So clearly the link works. This may be you as well then, Tim. The Twin Peaks, I know you're a big fan, the entire mystery series.
It may have come in the exact same package as The Red Turtle.
Nice.
Blu-ray.
We have a book, The Impending Crisis, 1848 to 1861. I'm assuming that's historical related to Civil War, I want to say.
Yeah, it would have been impending.
Okay, it's not quite the crisis, impending. And then we had a toy horse purchase. And then I'm excited to talk about this because I've been seeing a lot of this make the rounds on the internet. Fidget spinners.
I have no idea what you just said.
You don't know what that is?
I don't have the slightest idea.
So people who have anxiety or ADHD or things that they have to be constantly clicking a pen or something. So some people have developed like a toy that you can twirl, twist, click, and it's all in your hand.
Okay.
Apparently, it's a big problem in high school, in the school systems, because kids are just playing with it all the time, and
they should break their thumbs.
Exactly. Well,
that's what we should do.
We appreciate you for buying all of these things. Thank you, guys. When we get back, we're coming back with our spoiler alert for La La Land and the Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Welcome back to Alternate Ending. So for tonight's episode, we have a very exciting double feature. A pair of musicals, one recent hit film, major player at the Oscars, major player in year-end lists, as well as a film that very much influenced it, both just you can tell from the evidence of your own eyes. Also, the director has more or less admitted that the older film is his favorite movie of all time, so we're going to get to that one in a moment. But first, let's start with La La Land. Record-tying nominee for 13 Academy Awards, won 6. Famously did not win Best Picture in a incident that was humiliating for just about everyone possibly involved. But we're not gonna dwell on that. Let's just talk about the movie itself. So, if I remember correctly, La La Land made your top 5 of the year. Is that right?
Yeah, it did. It was it my number 1?
It might have been. It was Carrie's number 1 for sure.
Man,
so.
This is sad that I don't know. I'm on this. It was definitely my top 5, and I'll go back and look if it was my number 1. I think it might have been. I think it was my.
I think it was.
And right, I mean, in second viewing, I know we all sat down and rewatched it together along with the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. In rewatching it, yeah, I know what I loved about it.
I have many people in my daily life who are confident it is awful. And
well represented by the people who wrote in.
And, and God bless. It's a boring world when we all like the same stuff. With that in mind and sort of being like, okay, I know that people have issues with this. Fuck all of you. You're wrong. It's a great movie. Yeah. I had one problem with it when I saw it in theaters, which was the sound mix in the first 2 numbers, Another Day of Sun and Someone in a Crowd. In both cases, the lyrics were like really swallowed down in the mix, and it was kind of unfortunate. And they fixed it for the Blu-ray, so it is now a perfect movie. And I don't mean fuck you. You're my readers and listeners, and I love you. I don't agree. Emphatically don't agree with that opinion.
Let me give you a little taste of what people wrote in on the negative. And it was I'm honestly saying most of it was negative. We had Kellen Rogenbach write in, pretty meh. So not a lot of detail behind that one. We had Jessica Mabry saying that she fell asleep, but rewatches made her more of a fan. So that's a little bit positive. Not negative. Matt DeBari, I actually watched it Monday night. I was completely bored for the first half. It just seemed to lurch from one random song to a dance number to the next. Second half seemed to be a bit more focused, and I really did like that part of it. I'm not sure if it ever became good enough to overcome the dance routine at the valet or whatever that was. And then another person, just such a bore. And then actually one commenter said, just love Tim sitting alone in the corner, referring to our poster.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. I look like a hobo stalking you and Carrie.
We're having this epic dance off, and you're just sitting there admiring it. I don't get. And the boring part, I understand it's not a popcorn movie or summer movie for that matter either, but the purity of what it is it's great in everything that it's setting out to do, and it accomplishes what it does.
And one of the things I've heard complained, and I think this is not illegitimate, the purpose of a musical is to have big splashy song and dance numbers that make us feel, ooh, we just saw something splashy and spectacular. And neither of the leads can dance very well, and Ryan Gosling just straight up can't sing. And all of that's true. I think that is part of the film's charm, and B, the dance number when they're overlooking the valley at dusk is like pretty kind of great. I couldn't do that. You could give me 6 months of training and I would still not be able to do what they do in that number. And is it Astaire and Rogers? Well, no, but it's pleasurable. It's about telling the story, which is, I think, the most important thing that musical numbers do. Is they are a way of expressing the emotional beat of the moment in a more real than real way. Like that's what musicals are for.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So you mentioned Stella and Rogers, and basically talking about the triple threat, in these types.
Did you just say Stella and Rogers?
No, Estelle. Who am I?
Astaire.
Astaire.
Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
That's exactly what I said. Talking about the triple threat, being able to sing, dance, and act when for these types of musicals. What's the most important quality that you feel, or do you need to excel in all three, or can you suffer in one or be lesser in one?
The most important quantity, especially as it applies to La La Land, I would say, is being adorable and fuckable. Mm-hmm. And that is something that both Ryan and Emma are. My first response to this movie when I came out of it, I wanted to be the meat in a Ryan and Emma sandwich. And I stand by that. As far as like actual applicable skills, it's a musical that's designed to be about acting more than about dancing. So I think that is what matters. And it's about, are these appealing characters like worth spending time with based on the performance? And I think they are.
Yeah, I can't sing my way out of a paper bag, so it's hard for me to poke at their singing. I will say it doesn't meet the professional standard that maybe we're all used to. Their voices are a little thin in parts and squeaky in certain ways, but I'm okay with it too. The dancing, I actually agree with you. The dancing was better than the singing, and then their acting is great.
And there's a thing that I think is overlooked about the movie. It is a movie about an actress and a musician. The one who only, like, the musical numbers given to Ryan Gosling's character are instrumental because that's what he does. That's how he communicates. And the musical numbers given to Emma are much more about, it's like to Emma Stone, to Mia, I believe is the character name, are much more about like, can you do like facial expressions? And like the one at the end, Audition, is all about like, can you hold a still shot? So they're about like, what does an actor do with a song, not what does a singer do with a song? And I think that fits. I think that it's about what the characters are.
Yeah, I guess if the characters and they were singers, then I would have a problem with their
when you have a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie.
Fred Astaire
and yes. Usually Fred is always playing a dancer. Ginger frequently is. So it's important that their characters can dance. There are no dancers in La La Land, and I'm fine with them not being Astaire and Rogers.
Curious, best triple threat, like who's got the whole package?
Gene Kelly.
Okay.
No question.
Yeah.
Gene Kelly. Quadruple threat, really, because on top of all the things he did, he was also a top-notch choreographer.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, they don't make them.
They don't, like literally. That skill set exists because of vaudeville. Like, in the old vaudeville days, you needed to be able to interrupt your very well-timed comedy routine with a little soft shoe bit that you threw a song into. Everybody who came up through vaudeville had to be able to sing, tell a joke, dance, and act. And then vaudeville died in the 30s-ish, and there was no longer that training ground. So that's why you have people like Fred Astaire. That's why you have people like Jimmy Cagney, who could do all of these things. And like, you see a Jimmy Cagney gangster picture and you're like, how in the hell can this man sing and dance? And then you watch Yankee Doodle Dandy and there's your answer. And we just don't have that anymore. Like, we don't have the training grounds where it's important to have all three of those skills.
Well, kudos to Ryan Gosling too. I mean, I don't know if this is substantiated or validated, but they said that he learned all of his piano parts so that they didn't have to cut away and get a hand double like they do for a lot of these types of things.
There are definitely some shots where they're making you aware that he's playing for himself, although there are other shots where it could be a double. And I don't know enough about piano to say if he's only playing the easy parts. It doesn't strike me that way, but I don't know. But it seems like he's playing his own stuff.
Before we get into the plot a little bit more and thoughts on that, let's maybe talk a little bit more about the cinematic aspects of the opening, the technical things.
Yes.
How about that opening?
God, that is my favorite part of the movie. It's my second favorite part of the movie. The opening and the closing are my two favorite things. The opening is this amazing. It's simulated. As far as I know, it's not an actual single take, but it's this beautiful simulated single take. The camera is just like swirling and swooping around this traffic jam and a freeway ramp in Los Angeles. And I love it. I mean, as a technical thing, it's great, but I really love it because of the mood it sets and how much it's about. Like, here's a whole bunch of people and they're all aware that they are going to fail, but they're just going to go for it because what else are you going to do? And like, that's the narrative of the movie. That's the narrative of the song. And it also sets up like the really wonderful use of strong primary colors that's going on in the whole thing. And it's just like, it's so lovely. The timing, the way that at one point the song like slows down and it cuts, or not cuts, but like pans over to a woman just by herself in the frame. And it's the least crowded frame we've had in several minutes at that point. And it's just, I love it. It got me so, every time I watch it, and I do sometimes just pop the disc in and watch that scene without watching the rest of the movie, it just gets me so like worked up and excited.
Well, as a film aficionado, there's no, I mean, this is why that scene alone to me is why you just give the trophy for best director or the Oscar for best director straight to Damien. I mean, the vision to have that, the balls to try to pull it off. And I don't know if there are some edits in there or something, like I can't tell. I saw some of the early iPhone footage, and that might be in one of the extras in the Blu-ray. I don't know. I found it online of him actually testing it out with an iPhone on a set as well and practicing it. And he was doing all of
That's cool.
the moves. He did it on his own iPhone. So I don't know how they executed that. I don't know if the average film goer looks at that and then is like, wow. Or are they just, are they just taking it in?
I think entirety? Not, because it's not like a Birdman situation where the point is that it's a single take. It's just sort of a bravura, hey, look at what we can do thing, which is part of I think again, the narrative of the song is like, I'm gonna put on a show for you. And if you're a director, putting on a show means some really crazy, stupid, elaborate camera moves.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the plot then. The plot is. Mia, fledgling, hasn't been, as far as I know, cast in anything. She's been trying for 6 years, and Ryan down on his luck, piano player, but has big dreams. And he's the type of person, it seems, that is willing to not compromise that dream. It has to be an authentic approach to it, and he's not willing to sell out or do anything to get there. And Mia, and Emma Stone's character, working on the Warner Brothers lot, it's not like she's sold out or anything, but she's realistic a little bit. The two meet, and what do you think about them as characters and the arc that each of them take?
So I think the important thing about La La Land is that they are both. The characters are not great, like as human beings. Like they both have problems. Like Seb, the Ryan Gosling character, is kind of a bully. He's kind of like, no, I'm right and everybody else is wrong. And like, he's not the most likable. And Mia is like, at one point towards the end, she basically says that she's pathetic because she's just been hanging onto this stupid dream for so long. And she's kind of right. I mean, like, and I think that's what makes the movie work, is that they're not these idealized romantic figures. They're like, they resemble real people who have admittedly been dropped into this fantasy world. I mean, like, I know one of my friends dislikes the movie because he thinks that it plays too much into the go to Hollywood, find your dreams without any failure. And like so many people fail when they try to go out to Los Angeles. And I think that's true. It's a musical. I mean, it's a musical comedy, so it still has to have like the upbeat, yay, they succeeded. But I do think that the characters are broken and prickly in ways that make it a lot more interesting than like the same kind of story when it was being cranked out by the fistful in like the 30s.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that at some point their arc kind of they cross. So Ryan Gosling seems to become insecure. He's in this relationship with Emma Stone now, and things are going well. He's encouraged her. The power that he brings to the relationship for her is he's this big dreamer, and that's addicting, and that makes her want to just say, fuck it, I'm going to go for it too, and just lay it all out there. I'll write my own play. And he convinces her to do that. He inspires that. He's a dream maker in that regard. But then he himself gets insecure through, I'm assuming based on that conversation that she has with her mom, and feels like, well, I got to figure out a way to keep this going. And it's almost like they trade a little bit there, and it makes him unhappy, maybe a little bit resentful, and that causes some additional of the conflict.
That is the conflict. Yeah. That is where the conflict comes in that one scene where they have their fight that sort of kicks into the last stage of the movie.
I had this discussion because Carrie's mom watched it with us, and I didn't want to spoil the conversation with Carrie, but I was talking with Carrie's mom about this, and for me, I don't know if you've crossed paths with people like this too. And I know people are down on the ending. I think for a lot of people, they love the movie, but they wanted the two characters to end up together.
I respect that. And when I walked out of the movie the first time, this was before it opened, I saw it at the Telluride Film Festival. My immediate response after saying I would just love to so badly to be double teamed by Emma and Ryan was that if it had a happy ending, nothing could prevent it from winning the Best Picture, because there are going to be people who find that to be sort of mean, I think. I like it because I think so here's the thing. I think it's Mia's story. Seb, I think, is the character who gets more of the attention because he's got like more of a dynamic series of things he does and achieves. Excuse me. I think the movie is about, excuse me, goodness, the fact that people like Seb, when they come into your life, are very good to get you to cross whatever hurdle between A and B is in the way, but they're not the people that you need to be with. Once you've gotten to be like, that person shouldn't be part of your life anymore. And I think that's kind of what the story's about, is like, I think that it's easy for us watching a movie to want them to be together because that's what we want out of movies. I think Mia's a happier, healthier person because she's not. And I think that's the point of it, is like, she needed to cross paths with this person who would force her to confront things about herself.
That's interesting. So I see that side. I also see the other side, though, where Seb needed Mia in order to get more grounded. And, hey, you can't always be right. I think some of the biggest laughs were, for me, were J.K. Simmons and Ryan Gosling with that exchange about being right. Mm-hmm. I signed off on it.
Right.
And what he gains from Mia is that grounding in that sense where, your dream you can't get to your dream. And even John Legend pulls Ryan Gosling aside, dude, like, jazz is about the future and being, this, and you're a traditionalist. And I know he ends up opening up a traditional jazz place and
that's the thing, like, he ends up winning. Like, the things he wants at the start of the movie are the things he gets at the end of the movie.
But not chicken on it.
Well, so I guess that's the thing. He has learned one important thing, which is that you can't just be like, no, purity first, now, and always. You have to actually.
That's true. He does have his chair.
Right.
Still there, prominently displayed, and all the stuff that he stole from the Samba Tapas place. Maybe his growth isn't as big, but I've certainly encountered people. I know of people who've encountered people where it's sad because you love them, mm-hmm. but you met them in order to get you, and you don't know this at the time. It's heartbreaking at the time, but you got to let go, and they elevate you to something else. And you look back fondly, nostalgically. So that whole, we can get into this part too, is, when Emma, by happen chance, goes back to stumbles upon Seb's place and sees him there, and like, what transpires there. You get a little bit nostalgia and feeling like the what if, could we have made this work?
Well, I think the other thing that is true is that she loves him more than she loves her husband. And I think we all have that. We all have someone who we love decades later, knowing that it was like not sustainable.
Yeah, it couldn't work.
The intensity of that feeling trumps the sort of very pleasant I have a child and husband-ness. And so the intensity is intoxicating. So like, I think she does love Seb more than she loves her husband. And I think that is something really real. And it of course leads into that amazing dream sequence, fantasy sequence, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to ask you a question a little bit. So have you seen any 1950s MGM musicals? That's probably a really specific question. Have you seen Singin' in the Rain?
Singin' in the Rain, yes.
Have you seen An American in Paris?
I have not.
So there's a tradition, not terribly long-lived, but it's in a lot of really prominent movies. A lot of these big musicals in the 50s had like some manner of dream ballet. So in Singin' in the Rain, it's the Broadway melody sequence. In An American in Paris, it's this amazing 20-minute ballet that happens at the end of the movie. I'm not going to go into the details because you should see An American in Paris if you haven't seen it. And I don't want to turn this into the American in Paris hour when we already have two other movies to talk about. But short version, the sequence in La La Land is so unbelievably obviously taking its cues from An American in Paris in ways that I think are wonderful. And what's interesting is that the American in Paris ballet recounts the entire plot of the movie as a way of resolving the conflict between the two main characters La La Land recounts the entire plot of the movie as a way of finally splitting the two characters apart. And I think that's just a really interesting, like, whoa, you did the exact opposite. And it's so obvious that it's copying An American in Paris, but it's doing it from the exact opposite end. And I think that's really fascinating.
So this was my take on that last scene. Him playing that song, the way he plays it, projects the sliding door, the what if, and his feelings of what may have happened. But then ultimately, they part ways because they both got what they want. It's hard to say they got what they wanted.
They're both happy.
They didn't
get everything they
didn't
wanted,
get everything they wanted, but they got the thing they wanted most, and it wasn't each other. And
right,
like how. But am I right in thinking that is he's pushing out through that song, like he's showing her and she's seeing it.
Well, I certainly think, the staging suggests that we're inside Mia's head. Like it begins and ends with shots of her face. And certainly he chooses at that moment to play the song that has throughout the entire film been the motif for his feelings towards her. Like it's a very motif heavy film. I don't think that that's something that's actually gotten a lot of attention. So I'm just going to take a real quick aside. There are not that many pieces of music written for La La Land. A huge amount of that score are variations. Like if you listen to the soundtrack album a few times and you really get like, here is the progression of Another Day of Sun, like half the damn score are variations on Another Day of Sun. So like the score uses motifs a lot, and that's the most important one, is that like solo piano ballady thing that Seb plays as his like love theme for Mia. And so he does play that. He plays that on purpose because he is now thinking of everything that he doesn't have and that he lost. And then it does trigger, I think, the same set of associations. So I think it is kind of their shared acknowledgement that it would have been so easy for them to have made tiny different choices and ended up together.
Do you feel like in that dream world, that sequence, sliding doors kind of sequence, that are they as successful there, or did they have to give something up on that side? And because that was the kind of conversation I wasn't sure.
The important thing to keep in mind is in the dream sequence when they go to the jazz club, it's not Seb's.
Right.
He's visiting someone else's jazz club.
Now, so that I picked up on. Is she less of an actress in that dream sequence? Because it seems like she gets the applause of there's that scene.
She gets the job, but then everything we see subsequent to that is family life.
Yeah.
We don't see anything about her career at that. We don't see anything about either of their careers. We see that they have a family and what looks like a modest little house. Like it's the 16 millimeter footage of them like painting their house makes it look like some suburban home. So maybe that's what they're saying. They had to make a choice between, I can have the career I want, or I can be someone who has a pleasant little family and I live in a pleasant little house. And maybe that's the sacrifice. It's not so much I could be an actress or I could have Seb. It's I could be an actress or I could be, this nice little housewife. And I think Mia ends up with a better hand than Seb does at the end of the movie. Yeah. Because she does have a kid and she loves the kid. And you can tell in that one scene.
Although he's frying up chicken, 2 cutlets right there too. You mentioned a couple things about the music. I read this somewhere. I didn't have this observation, but once I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that actually rings pretty true. Is that the times when they break out into music and song and dance, that equates to happiness and joy, and that there are no instances where after. Yeah, go ahead.
I challenge that on one point. When we first hear City of Stars, Ryan Gosling's character is very confused and mixed up and knows that he has this set of things he wants and he's not trying to go about getting them. But when we hear the full City of Stars, when it is resolved, it's because it is a moment of happiness. So I think that does hold water.
First City of Stars, is that on the pier?
Yeah.
Okay. He seemed happy. Had he just met Mia?
He's sort of like, he's just met her, but he's not sure if it's going to go anywhere.
Okay.
It's sort of like, because the last thing he says is it another dream that will not come true?
I mean, look at our discussion now, too. It's a simple idea, but the fact of that the people that you meet, you may love them, but they may inhibit your ability to get your dreams. I think that's a very a real conflict that happens for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know a lot of people took Damien Chazelle's last film to task, Whiplash, for saying you can either be a great artist or you can be a decent person. And they were saying, no, that's reductive. I don't think it is. I think that's 100% correct. I don't think there's any great artist who's a good person. And in the same way, I don't think you can be a great artist and be a great family person, frankly. And I know that the internet is like, no, you can be good and whatever. And that's a problem people have with La La Land. And no, I frankly think that is a challenge that it's
well, and I think that's to your point. Do they have terrible lives in that that final dream sequence? They don't, but they're just, she's a good actress, maybe not the best.
We don't know. We don't know. We don't have the evidence.
And he can still play piano, but he doesn't have a club.
He doesn't have a club.
So,
yeah. And I mean, is that cynical? Maybe, but I think the fact that it's saying that there is a conflict there, and there is a conflict there. I mean, I think that's good. I think it's challenging and interesting. And obviously most of us don't have to make that decision. And I don't think it's what the movie's about. I think the movie's about this idea of like, you're going to cross paths with people who aren't supposed to be in your life for always. But I do think that this question of like, do you have to make hard choices is important. And it's something that the movie is dealing with.
What did you think about the audition sequences? Not just the big Emma Stone one, but just, I found a lot of delight never having auditioned for anything, but then reading a little bit about that. No, these types of things happen where
right.
you're so vulnerable, you're pouring your heart into a particular casting opportunity and you get interrupted.
That early one where she's like weeping so hard and then she's interrupted right in the middle, I think is such an amazing. The other ones are just they're kind of corny jokes, honestly. But that one I think is really, really great. And also shows that Emma Stone can do a lot more than I think we give Emma Stone credit for doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that one it's the one with her on the cell phone, right? Yeah,
where I think it's clearly she's like talking to her lover who's just told her that he's staying with his wife, I think is what we're meant to understand is going on.
Yeah.
So
she got that part. I don't know what they were looking for with that one. Yeah, a lot of other things worked for me. The 80s scene where they kind of reunite and she makes him play Iran.
Yes. I love the scene is good. I love the button, can I borrow your outfit? I'm going to be playing a very serious firefighter. It's like such a good line, and Emma Stone delivers it so well. She's a very good comic actress.
I would hire that band. I would hire that 80s band. They were solid. The Aha
I
Take
don't
On Me.
know if that's the direction the film is going for.
I quickly try to Yelp them and see if they were available. But Ryan's comedic timing good too. He does a double take there when he realizes.
Oh, yeah.
That's, I mean, he was very I mean, he just can't help it. I don't think not be charming.
Yeah, possibly hot take. I think Ryan Gosling gives a better performance in that movie than Emma Stone does. I think Emma Stone gives a fine performance, a very good performance even. There are more little bits in Gosling's performance that I really like, and that's like one of them. Is that little like double take.
You mentioned the Oscars. I think we were both live tweeting the Golden Globes.
I didn't even watch the Golden Globes.
You didn't watch the Golden Globes. It was the announcements of them, I think.
Yes.
So there was an awkward exchange where Damien wins for Best Director, and he gets up, shakes Ryan's hand, and his girlfriend, I think he's recently divorced, but his girlfriend's there, and Emma Stone's kind of in the mix, but he's going to try to embrace his girlfriend, and then Emma awkwardly thinks it's her, so it was amazing. You got to check it out.
I'll have to hunt that down.
But yeah, I was looking at pictures of Damien Chazelle and research for this. He looks so much like John Mayer, and his new girlfriend looks the spitting image of Blake Lively. And I don't know if you agree with those.
I agree with the Blake Lively thing. Actually, the first time I saw the movie, and there's a cameo for the woman he's with, I thought it was Blake Lively.
Oh, did you really?
Why is Blake Lively all of a sudden in this movie for half a scene?
So she's not a trained actress, I guess. Just she's a consultant who.
I think that's a mean thing to say about Blake Lively.
Oh, interesting thing about his ex-wife. He ended up giving her a executive producer credit on La La Land. I guess they both went to Harvard, and she was in the film biz as well, but. I don't know if that's I don't know what role she necessarily played in the movie, except maybe partially for inspiring it or helping it come together. But
executive producer can mean a lot of things.
So what's next for Chazelle? Looks like he's got a movie coming up called First Man. So it'll look at Neil Armstrong's life, and the lead up to the legendary space mission that led him to become the first man to walk on the moon. All right. Excited to see it. Are you in for Chazelle?
It's unclear to me how he's going to shoehorn a jazz subplot into this story, but
starring Ryan Gosling.
I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's going to be Ryan Gosling as Mr. Neil Armstrong. we dive into Umbrellas of Cherbourg? Compare and contrast?
So famously, Damien Chazelle loves a 1964 movie called The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. If you haven't seen it, you must see it because it's amazing. A couple touchstones. One tiny one that I hadn't noticed until I was like hunting for it. In La La Land, Emma Stone's character writes a play, like a one-woman show, and the name of her character, as you can see if you're looking at the script she's writing, is Genevieve, and Genevieve is the main character in Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Also, there are two characters in the movie called Guy and Madeleine, and Chazelle's first movie is a jazz musical, called Guy and Madeleine on a Park Bench. So he loves the movie, he's owned that he loves the movie, he owns that the movie heavily influenced La La Land. So I think it's worth digging into those overlaps a little bit, but I'm just going to ask point blank. This is a movie I've loved for 15 years now, but I believe it was the first time you saw it. So what did you think of it?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I usually don't venture before I'm like Sam Beckett from Quantum Leap. I can't jump before my original timeline and watch movies before 1982. But yeah, I'm usually down on old movies, and subtitle movies I struggle with because then I have to read. I was all in on this.
I know you are subliterate.
Yeah, and I was okay. I really was, and it was late too. We had just finished. We did back-to-back La La Land and Umbrellas, and I enjoyed watching this movie and recognized so much. And seeing it back-to-back, I appreciate you exposing us to that, is you really get a sense of Damien's influence.
Oh yeah, there's
no question.
There's so much. I think the most obvious thing, far and away, is the ending, but also like the way color is used. Like in both movies, characters have, like, they don't wear like a yellow dress. They wear like the color yellow or the color pink. So like really bold, brassy use of color, especially in the costuming. I think a lot of the very sinuous camera movements he clearly was thinking of. He borrowed from Jacques Demy. And one of the things that's even stronger in Demy's next film after Umbrellas of Cherbourg, even better, The Young Girls of Rochefort, really trades on our cast is full of people who can't sing and can't dance, and that's part of the adorable charm of the movie. And I that's why I think that La La Land's doing that on purpose. Like, people say, oh, it sucks because Ryan Gosling can't sing. It's like, no, it's great because Ryan Gosling can't sing. But yeah, so for those who haven't seen the movie, for those who need a refresher, Umbrellas of Cherbourg is a film in 3 parts and an epilogue. It is about Geneviève, played by Catherine Deneuve, who's a 17-year-old girl who lives in the port town of Cherbourg, France. She's in love with a 20-year-old garage mechanic named Guy, who's played by Nino Castelnuovo. They're in love. They're very innocent and naive and pure and wonderful. And Geneviève's mother, who's Madame Emery, played by Anne Vernon, owner of a umbrella shop called the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, believes that they have no business being together and they shouldn't end up together, and that, surely her daughter can do better than this nobody garage attendant. And it's set in 1957, which was 7 years before the movie came out, right at the heart of the Algerian War. So at some point, Guy knows that he's going to be called up for military service. He is called up for military service, and out of sort of desperation and this like desire to create some bond to cling to, Guy and Geneviève have sex for the first time the night that he discovers he's been drafted. And then things develop from there. I don't want to spoil it, even though this is technically our spoiler alert, but so she ends up pregnant. The second part is her alone in Cherbourg without him. She's courted by this kind of like sincere but also not very interesting jewel merchant, Roland Cassard. And so that's the second part, is her without him in Cherbourg. He then comes back to find that she's left. She's married the jewel merchant. She now lives in Paris. So the third part is him without her. And then the fourth part we will talk about at some length, so we won't talk about the fourth part now. But it's this completely sung through. Every line of dialogue in the entire movie is set to music. Amazing, beautiful, brilliant music by a composer named Michel Legrand. It's possibly my all-time favorite film score, honestly. And so it's this tragic romance that starts out fluffy and comic and turns into this like really severe realist melodrama, if realist melodrama is even a genre that exists. I think it's a great movie, but I've been talking a lot about it. So let me turn things back over to Rob. So what were some of the things you noticed about it?
One of the things I noticed, the gas station that he worked at, or the service station, was an Esso station. Yes. And it immediately, again, having just watched La La Land, there was a tribute to that in La La Land too, where they're dancing in a red and white striped, looks like a gas station. The tracking shots I noticed being, and again, what's amazing to me is this was shot in the 60s, and it is really well done.
They had tracking shots.
Yeah, well, no, but it was in such a way where I know we talked a little bit about this before off the podcast, but it took a little bit of the shine off La La Land for me, because when I watched La La Land for the first time, and I shouldn't give it crap, but because you can get inspired from different things, but I just thought it was so original in what it was, and it doesn't make it less original. It just makes it. It came from somewhere. It has an origin story now, and
that's kind of actually what made me love La La Land so hard, so immediately, was watching it and being like, oh, this guy likes Umbrellas of Cherbourg even more than I do, and to me that's exciting.
And I don't mean to diverge too much from Umbrellas, but what other directors, I think of, a similar director, not in style necessarily, but with the passion for particular movies, that then he's turned it into something else, and that's Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
Does that for samurai movies, westerns, and he takes what he loves about these movies that no one's really seen.
It's very common. I mean, like, Tarantino does it in a very, very obvious way, but so many filmmakers, you can, like, really clearly tell who are the 3 or 4 filmmakers or what filmmaking traditions really inspire you. And I think most major current filmmakers, you can like track that out, honestly. Like Tarantino's an obvious case, but it's not uncommon.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I could have done without the singing every word. I think I could have. So don't punch me. I see you thinking about it.
Here's what I did actually have a fist on the table, didn't I? No, what I love about the singing is, so it comes out of this period in French cinema, 1960s, where a lot of French filmmakers, François Truffaut, Jean-Luc Godard, Eric Romer, are trying to balance, we want to make realistic movies about real people in actual places having real life emotions with, boy, we fucking love movies. And so you'll see that in Godard, where he makes all of these like crazy, ludicrous, overbaked gangster pictures that are about like the most normal kind of everyday French people in Paris. And I think what's going on a little bit, and Demy's not quite part of that group, he's not really a new wave filmmaker, but he is tapping into the same sense of, let's do something real. Like, let's gas station attendants and shop girls who get knocked up and then left because their boyfriend went to the Algerian War and stuff like that. But he's giving it this really punchy gloss of like Hollywood, totally artificial magic, partially I think because of the colors, and I think it's really impossible to overstate how important color is in the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, but also I think because like everything seems more spectacular and poppy when it's being sung. So there's a scene that I always love, is like, to me, the typical moment, or the typifying moment for Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Madame Emery and Geneviève are having a fight. I think they're having a fight. Maybe they're just having a nice conversation. But a man pops his head into the shop and says, is this the hardware store? And Madame Emery says, no, that's next door. But they're singing, and it's like such a thoroughly pointless, banal exchange of lines. But the fact that it's sung is like, oh, we're watching a movie, they're singing about the hardware store. And like, I love that. I love that so much.
Umbrella shops haven't really stood the test of time. Don't see a lot of.
I'm not confident that they had stood the test of time by 1963 when the movie was shot, to be perfectly honest.
Can Amazon for that through our site now? No, but you wanted to talk about the last part of the movie.
Yeah. So the thing, I think both movies do this. I think Umbrellas of Cherbourg does it better than any movie I can name. So we watch movies. We know how to watch movies. We certainly know how to watch bright, colorful musicals. And Jacques Demy, no French filmmaker who put musical numbers into their films didn't love Hollywood musicals. They loved Hollywood films so much. Like, we think of, oh, French, they're snooty, they're arty, whatever. They were crazy over Hollywood studio productions. So Jacques Demy knows that you go to watch a musical because you want to see Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds kiss. You want to see Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers kiss, like whatever. You want to see the couple get together. He then spends a movie very carefully showing us how a whole bunch of little choices break these two characters apart. And everything seems very, in the moment, sad but reasonable. Like, well, I mean, yeah, Geneviève thinks that he's probably not going to come back, so she will end up with the jewel merchant. And he comes back and his aunt dies and he's feeling super lonely, so he will obviously like latch on to the first woman who's there. And I still think, though, in our heads, we want them to get together. Because like that's what musicals do. That's what romantic stories do. Like there's going to be some saving throw where all of a sudden like Guy and Geneviève come back together. And then the final scene happens and they don't. And it doesn't really seem to bother either one of them that they don't. And I think that's the key difference between Umbrellas of Cherbourg and La La Land. At La La Land, they're both clearly thinking about it. Like how would my life have been different? Guy, especially at the end of Umbrellas, is clearly fine. He's like, he has a great kid, he has a great wife, he's got his service station, everything's perfect. A little harder to read Geneviève. I think that, she's maybe not as happy as he is, but these are two characters who they're not going to go have an affair. That's just not going to happen. But the audience does not have the 6 years that they did. The audience is still like remembering them kissing and loving, and they're still remembering Michel Legrand's like just gorgeous heaving, the musical theme associated with I Will Wait for You. And then of course the movie plays that theme right in that scene. So the audience is like, but no, you're supposed to be together. So it's a tragic ending, but only for the audience. The characters are fine. And I love that about it because it's so heartbreaking. It's the most heartbreaking movie I can imagine that ends with a shot of a family having fun setting up their Christmas tree. Yeah. Like, that's so, like, how do you achieve that? And that's what I love about that.
Yeah, the hard part and I understand he probably not wanting to see, if Francois was his daughter?
Françoise.
Was his daughter not wanting to, maybe go say hi. I know why you wouldn't. If you've already made the choice to move on,
right?
Why latch on to anything? That was a bit tough as a parent to kind of think about. But both of them seemed, you're right, very, very, very much okay with the way their life is, and there is no look back like there is in La La Land, where they take that. They both stop, and Ryan Gosling turns away from the piano, and Emma Stone actually turns around and lock eyes,
and they smile at each other.
Smile. Yep. Like, hey, it's cool. And yeah, you don't get that with this one too, but still really much, very much enjoyed the movie.
So I got to ask, not that I want to like put you on the spot, which ending do you think they're both good? Do you think you like one ending better? Would you change anything about either ending?
About between La La Land and Umbrellas?
La La Land and Umbrellas.
Oh, I prefer La La Land's ending because it still makes me feel a little bit warm inside.
Sure.
And so yeah, I guess for the people who knocked La La Land for not having a happy ending, you're not going to get
Umbrellas is not what's going to movie for you. Not going to scratch that itch. No.
Yeah. So and it wasn't depressing. I understand why, but I just like the valuing of the nostalgia of the past, right, and like appreciating like that last exchange, just the smile and everything, and the playing of the song secured. Maybe I just know enough people who've had those situations where you've met those people and they've had that influence on your life, and it's not like you're not together anymore, so it's like you hate people now that you're not with them. Like you still can love someone who you're not with and appreciate that they were a big part of your life to get you where you are.
I think that movie is definitely also trafficking in if you really love someone and they're happy, that's good, and you want them to be happy even if they're happy over there, like where you're not. And I think the movie does tap into that. That being said, I love the ending to La La Land. I do love the ending to Umbrellas a little bit more.
Interesting.
Because it has Michel Legrand telling me what to feel, and I want him to, because I really like that piece of music a lot.
Well, every episode, we randomly select one member of audience who shared their feedback. Our lucky winner this week is Zev Burrows, who said...
Oh, congratulations, Zev.
Oh, you know Zev. Okay, good.
I mean, not firsthand, but Zev's been a long-time reader.
All right. He said, I hate to be that guy, but as I told Tim a few months ago, I hadn't enjoyed a movie that much since 2014's The Grand Budapest Hotel. So Zev was one of the few positive people who thought La La Land was great.
Zev actually took me to task for saying that the movie wasn't a 10 out of 10. So...
And maybe after a second viewing now, you'll move it up a half a point or something. But Zev, shoot us an email at contact@alternating.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Zev, be on the lookout for our spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, thanks everyone for listening. Even with Carrie being absent, that 3 o'clock double mint julep. 3 p.m. double mint julep will get you every time.
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Totally fair game. Check us out on social media. That's where we do a lot of our posts for these free movie rentals. Go on Facebook page, like it. Twitter, we're tweeting out more often. AlternateEnding.com, that's where you'll find our site for movie reviews, blogs, and our podcast. If not there, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google or wherever you find your podcasts. Tune in for our next show, just in time for Mother's Day. We'll be talking about our top 5 moms.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Carrie, and Carrie. And not your Carrie Piper Laurie Carrie.
And your mom and my mom, somewhere in there. We'll figure out the mix there, but we're excited to share that with you guys next time.